Hello and welcome to the Claret Blue podcast, sponsored by Saley. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson. He's Dan Bardell. Dan, how's things, mate? You okay?
I'm good. What's Sailor?
Saley? Oh, I'm glad you asked that.
I actually don't know what it is.
Saley is a mobile eSIM, much like NordVPN, comes from the same creators of NordVPN, that you can get if you're going to Turkey, for example. No idea why I've said Turkey. You could prepay for Turkey mobile data before you go, so you've got data on the go without paying expensive roaming charges. That wasn't a script, but I think I've done all right there. Well, the link for Saley is in the description down below. Let's crack on with the episode. We're doing a Q&A. The first one doesn't have a name, which is great start. Would you like to suggest a name of this mystery commenter?
Andre Moreira.
Andre Moreira. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Andre Moreira gets in touch and says, "Gentlemen, I wanted your thoughts on the Club World Cup. I am a US-based Villa supporter." Andreas Moreira said, "A massive change here. And from my side, things are pretty lacklustre. It doesn't feel like a major competition, but at the same time, we in the States hardly have this level of talent playing over here. The culture is different, and other than having a good women's national team, we don't often get to be spectators to competitive matches in the US. I know I won't be going to any games, and it seems like the competition is going to be a bit of a dud. I've not watched a single second of the Club World Cup. Have you?"
I've watched one game.
Does that make me like a bad football fan? I don't
Not
care
really.
about this.
I think lots of people feel that way. I only watched it because I wasn't doing anything and no one else was home. So I stuck it. It was Chelsea, and I can't even remember who they were playing. It was Chelsea's first game. That tells you everything about it, that I can't remember who Chelsea played in that game.
Perhaps it would feel different if Villa were in it for a start, but even then, I don't know if I'd be that interested.
You'd watch it, wouldn't you? Because you're a Villa fan. I think if you support one of the teams, you're going to watch it.
If this was a few years ago when Villa were first in the Conference League, and that was relatively new, the kind of rebadging of that, and he said, "What's the competition?" I'd be able to explain it. I don't really know what the Club World Cup is. Is it a pre-season thing or is it post-season?
No. Well, because of the way the contracts work, it's quite difficult to gauge whether it's at the end of the season or at the start of the new season. I guess it's more towards the end of the season, but certain players for certain teams have had their contracts extended a couple of weeks so that they can play in the tournament. I think Modric is playing for Real Madrid at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, but he's leaving Real Madrid when his contract ends in the summer. Normally contracts end on June the 30th. I think his has been extended for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Real Madrid paid like 10 million, I think it was, or between 8 and 10 million to get Trent early, because he shouldn't have joined until July the 1st. So they paid to get him in early for this tournament. I think if you're in it, it's worth winning because the prize pot's absolutely massive. It just seems not very well thought. I think there's already too much football. Like, I love football, and I'm missing the Premier League. I'm missing watching Villa every single week. But generally, there's too much football, and it's affecting the product. The players probably don't really know how seriously to take this at this point. I think that's part of the problem with it as well, because it's the first one. I don't think the players are even sure what's going on. Like, I know people that are working on it, and they're getting paid handsomely for doing it. Like, if I was working on it, obviously I'd be like, "Oh, this is fantastic. Everyone watch the Club World Cup," but I'm not. By and large, I don't think many people are bothered about it.
Thanks for asking.
Andre.
What was his name? Andre Moreira?
Andre Moreira. I could see him in America, obviously.
Venturing out. The only thing I can associate with him is that video of that warm-up.
That was exactly the reason why it came to me.
Yeah,
and the fact that we did that Villa View T-Bro. He stays with me because of that, really, that we did the T-Bro on him, and he did absolutely nothing. It was the most waste of time T-Bro that there ever was. And
like most of them.
Pretty much they were always a waste of time.
I love that there were a niche amount of people that are going, "Oh, I love this. That was great." And most others going, What is this?
Yeah, well,
let's move on. You mentioned South American just from Damo. I'd really like to know your thoughts on Villa seemingly now wanting European players as opposed to South American players. In the last window or two, we seem to be shipping out the South American contingent and focusing recruitment on European players. Do you think this is a conscious effort by the club to do this to limit travel in international breaks? Or is that completely coincidental and I'm overthinking it? I suspect it's probably the latter, but it is an interesting point that South American international players have a lot of travel time.
Yeah.
If that impacts Villa and they're signed to play for Villa and a European player doesn't have that travel time, then that might be a minor factor in a decision, maybe.
There was a game, wasn't there, in the league? I think we played Brentford. It was the first season back after COVID. And Martinez, I think he played.
There was a game he played and he got back to England on the day, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So there was
that's not ideal, is it?
No, there were some strange things that occurred around that time. I think that was more around the time of COVID when things had to be crammed in a little bit more. I think, if a player's travelling, they're travelling anyway, whether they're playing for a European nation or whether they're playing for a South American nation. So I don't think the club would make a conscious effort around it. It certainly doesn't feel like it's something that's affected Villa over the last 3 or 4 years with a lot of South American players. I think it's just the club have moved on from certain players that are from a South American background. When Villa have signed those players, they've never gone and got them directly from South America.
True.
They're players that have generally played in Europe, aren't they? That they've picked up who are from South American heritage. So I think it's just a little bit of a coincidence. But I do think it's interesting. Certain teams actually seem to be doing the opposite and going down the South American market. Forest are a big one, aren't they? Going down the South American market at the moment, bringing players in directly from Argentina or Brazil. And it's something the Premier League seems to be lagging behind generally at, I think, because I think France have always done that really, really well. Ligue 1, they've always managed to pick players up direct from Brazil or Argentina, or elsewhere in South America. Brighton do it pretty well, don't they? I think Brentford signed a striker last summer who got injured straight away from South America. It's a good market. You know, Chelsea have signed a whiz kid to play on the flanks. They signed him a year ago, but he's going to come in and play for him this season. Don't know why I said whiz kid. Don't know where that came from. So it's an interesting market that I wouldn't mind seeing Villa explore. But to answer the question, I don't think it's a particularly conscious thing from the club.
Mike says, to all the people saying we shouldn't leave Villa Park, I agree, but some perspective. If we periodically knock down and rebuild each stand one at a time every few decades, is it even the same stadium anymore? Triggers Broom comes to mind. Brackets, John won't get this. Well, John's not here and he wouldn't.
Dan doesn't get it.
Don't you get it?
No, what's that?
Not an Only Fools fan.
Triggers, bro. I know Trigger is. I know. I do know Trigger is.
There's a gag in that show for Trigger having been a road sweeper and having I've had this broom 30 years and it's had 10 new handles and 20 new brushes or whatever. It's not the same broom then, is it?
No. Okay.
Terrible way of explaining it is actually funny.
I get it. Thanks, Dave.
Good.
Thanks.
We had a comment that we spoke about this previously, and somebody, what was it? It was like a Greek mythology thing, Theus' ship or something like that.
What is this podcast? Why am I on here?
Let me think. Is that the right thing? Yeah. The ship of Theseus is a famous philosophical thought experiment that explores the concept of identity over time. So is it the same ship, conceptually, if every part on it has been changed? Is Villa Park still Villa Park if it's had a new Holt End and a new Trinity Road? Do you know what I mean?
It's on the same site, I would say. So I think it meanders into being Villa Park still because you're on the same ground, you're on the same site.
Same location more so than the actual
Think about like Bodymore Heath has pretty much been done from scratch again, but it's still Bodymore Heath. That's the best way I can look at it. I think it still would be Villa Park. The old Trinity got knocked down and we built a new Trinity, didn't we? Holt End's been knocked down. It didn't get knocked down, did it? Got turned into all-seater, but it's happened before and it's still Villa Park. It's still the same thing.
If you lived at 1 Bardell Close and knocked your house down and started again, your address would still be 1 Bardell Close, wouldn't it? Exactly.
I get the point, but I think it's still Villa Park. Whereas if I'm travelling to somewhere completely different in a brand new stadium, that isn't the same experience for me.
We do a question probably on leaving Villa Park every week in some different manner. So that's this week's one.
So that's good. I don't ever talk about that.
Do you not? Okay, that's surprising.
Different audiences for different needs.
Yeah. We got a couple about Martinez. We touched on him just in the previous question to that one. So let's do these two together. It's quite a chunky one. No name again. Do you want to nominate a name? Not an ex-footballer would be good. Just like Brian or something.
Gustavo Jones.
Gustavo Jones. Oh, okay. Gustavo says, I don't really understand why Villa fans are saying they'll be annoyed if Martinez goes to United. I think it's clear that it's not his choice and he's being pushed out for PSR reasons, a lot like Luis last year. He always comes across very much a family comes first type of person. So if his kids are settled in school and his wife is happy in the area, he could commute to Manchester and still play for United. I don't want him to go to United, brackets are their scum. Fair enough. But I won't be booing him if he joins them. It's not his fault if he wants to stay. He's doing us a favour by agreeing to leave to stop us having PSR issues. Now, park that for a second.
Right.
Daz also says, if Martinez did leave, how much better does he then make United? Would they be a competitor for Champions League? The whole Martinez doesn't want to go and it's a PSR thing. One, I don't think we'll ever really know that. So to kind of assume that would be foolish in my opinion. He might want to leave. It's not a PSR thing at all. He is a player that's obviously on big wages and would command a relatively big fee-ish. So it would help Villa's finances, of course. But to say that's the reason, I don't think would be potentially correct. Could he commute and stay around here and go to Manchester and play there? Yeah, of course. Would I want him to go to United? Definitely not. Surely there's somewhere else he could go.
I mean, it'd be disastrous for him if he did go to Manchester United and he still lived in Birmingham. I can't imagine he'd be able to go out too often. And, he's actually someone that people run into quite a lot. If you look at social media and stuff, like he's out and about in Birmingham and the areas in Sutton Coldfield quite a lot, Martinez. Like, he's not afraid to go out. He's always at the cinema down the road from me in Tamworth. He's always there. So, I mean, and thanks to Gustavo and Daz for the questions as well. I think I can speak about this with like a little bit of knowledge around it. And you don't change agents unless, going is a possibility, do you? And he's moved to Jorge Mendes. He's decided to do that. He's made that decision. Villa haven't made that decision. He'll be aware as a player of Villa needing to sell someone for PSR, whether that's him or whether it's someone that's worth less. And then on top of that, you've got the SCR situation, which isn't great, and in a year's time could be a borderline disaster for the football club in 12 months' time. So you've got to take that into account. Footballers generally don't do anything that they don't want to do. And Emi Martinez is a really, really big character. And if he was 100% set on staying at Villa, he's under contract, he'd just say, okay, I'm going to stay. I'm going to back that I'm going to play every week if I decide to stay. A little bit like Luca Dean over the last few years, where Villa could have looked to move him on. He's decided he doesn't want to go. He stayed. He's backed himself to get into the team. Villa have been happy with him to do that. He's done it. He's done well for us. He's been a consistent player. Martinez himself, I think the truth is always somewhere in the middle around these things. He's obviously open to a move. I've been told by someone pretty reliable at the moment he's 70% out, 30% in. That's the chances I've been given of him leaving the football club. And it's pretty clear that there's two teams at the moment, plus Saudi Arabia, which he's not interested in at all. There's two teams that would want him. One of them is Manchester United, the other is Atletico Madrid. Both of those have got goalkeepers. To be able to do the Martinez deal, they've got to move a goalkeeper on. Now, would it be more palatable as a Villa fan for him to go to Atletico Madrid? Of course it would. Yep. But that might not be an option. The club won't do anything that Emery's not happy with. Emery was okay with Douglas Luiz going. If Emi Martinez goes, that's Unai Emery being okay. With Emi Martinez going, us getting a new goalkeeper, Emery thinking he can make that goalkeeper into a potential world-class goalkeeper. They're not facts, but I think we can say most of that stuff is 99% true. So Manchester United are the only team that wants him, and Arna goes and they decide they want Emi Martinez. It would be Emi Martinez's decision. He doesn't have to do anything. And Villa won't sign a goalkeeper without Emi Martinez going. And if Julien Laurens, who we both know, has reported that Villa have made contact with Lille around Chevalier, one, Villa have done that. Two, that means there's 100% something in Martinez going to either Atleti or Manu. Manu will be desperate to shift Onana.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely desperate. He's a calamity. He's made them worse. The best season they had under Ten Hag was with David De Gea in goal. They finished third, I think it was. Since then, Onana's been the keeper, and I'm not saying it's all down to him. They've been nowhere near third.
No, he's a terrible goalkeeper.
The
second question from Daz, whether they immediately become a Champions League contender will obviously depend on their other transfer business. But Martinez in for Onana as a straight swap in one position where there's one player infinitely makes them better. Martinez, as we all know, is much better than Onana. So by default, they'll be better. Are they enough to go from whatever it was, 15th to 4th or 5th? Possibly not. Possibly yes. Who knows? The top end of the competitive, top half of the Premier League, is very competitive. So it isn't a quick fix for United. But Martinez would back himself to go there and be a good goalkeeper and help them win points. Otherwise, he wouldn't go. He'd be happy kind of staying at this level rather than thinking he can step up to a bigger club. I would be frustrated if he went there from a kind of fan perspective.
Because we've lost players to them before, probably before your time. But I've had two absolute heroes leave and go to Manchester United in my lifetime. Three of you include Ashley Young, I suppose, as well. But I was a little bit older then and more used to players going. But so we've lost Ashley Young, Dwight York, and Mark Bosnich to Manchester United. But you've lost them to Manchester United that are going to be challenging for honours and they're a better team than Villa at that point. Right now, Man U aren't better than Villa. They might be Man U in a bigger club, but they're not better than Villa. They've not got a better setup than Villa at the moment, and the league in the last 2 years dictates that. Matt, I don't think I've even mentioned this. I think there's a kind of a point that's been missed a little bit with this Martinez stuff at the moment, where I think he's been there since 2020 now. That's a long time for someone to be at a football club nowadays. Players don't really stay at a club for 5 years. He's just had although I wouldn't sell him, he's still, to me, indispensable in a lot of ways. He's just had his worst season that he's had for us, by probably quite a long way, actually. Still had moments where he's been world class, but it's definitely been an off season from his perspective. Has he himself gone a little bit stale? Does he need a refresh? And do Villa need a refresh? Mings and McGinn are different cases because they've been with Villa throughout the whole of the journey and they kind of get the fabric of the club. They're both not going to play every week. They're different cases for me, and you need players that have been there for a long time. But
I think they're completely different.
Yeah, but Martinez, I do both just need a refresh.
I think in that comparison, Mings and McGinn I think Villa is their best level at this point in their careers. Where Martinez will back himself to go on and win league titles for a club. I don't think United will do that in his time as a player. I've said this before, United probably won't win titles again for another 5 years. Martinez will be retired by then. So if he's going there to win the Premier League, I don't think that will happen.
They might, though, I don't think they will either. But things change very quick and change very quickly in football. Arsenal, I know they haven't won anything, but they went from missing out on the Champions League and finishing 5th and everyone laughing at them to finishing 2nd 3 years in a row and being contenders. So things can change. They do change. Yeah. You've just got to look at Villa. We were 17th.
True. Yeah.
True. Now we're Champions League contenders for 2 years in a row. Like, things can change very quickly just by making one good decision.
Yeah, fair.
And I think Martinez, from an ego point of view as well, we know about his ego. I don't think it's a bad thing. A challenge might be, and I've said this on my own show, Manchester United are absolute dog at the moment. Players have come and gone for the last 3, 4 years, 5 years, and nobody's managed to make them better. Can I go in there and help refresh that environment and refresh the mindset of the club? I'm a winner. I've won the World Cup. Can I go in there and be one of the players that besets change at Manchester United?
This is what John said last week. He was
if he said that, I agree with him. So, I mean, you've not really asked about the reaction and stuff. I personally wouldn't boo him if he came back, but then I don't think I've ever booed anyone.
Just to wrap this kind of Martinez stuff up, I actually think from a business perspective, from Villa's point of view, I think it probably is the right time to be selling him. If Emery's okay with it,
which he will be.
33, is he off the top of my head?
I thought,
32, 33.
He's 32 until he's
32, until he's 33. That is how it works. It's just like you said, had his worst season for us. He's still on a good contract, so he's still got value to be had. He won't have much book value left from being here from 5 years ago for, 20 million, I think?
So you've got friends in the football finance industry, aren't you? You're talking about book value. Who do you think you are? I rolled onto it.
That's a proper podcast here, mate. From a business point of view, if you can get a fee that you're happy with, get his wages off the books, find a replacement that may not be as good as him now, but could be in 18 months' time, and that's somebody Emery wants to work with. I actually think that ticks a lot of boxes for a smart football club. Saying,
you don't have to sell an outfielder.
Yeah, I think it's a massive risk to change that position, and Martinez is very good. He's had a poor season. But what if we look at this deal as, well, you know what? He went to United and this is actually the end of Martinez. Maybe he never has a good season again from here. Yeah. Maybe this is the end of his career. And we go, we kind of got out at the right time there. 40 million for that. He's terrible at United. We kind of got away with one there. That's my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion softened on it a little bit as time's gone on, because he does solve the SCR problem and the PSR problem in one swoop. Because he
won't be the only sale anyway.
No, he won't be. But he's the highest paid player, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult to tick both those boxes in one player unless it's someone like him. And I think goalkeeper is the most important position. And I could sit here in 6 months and say, geez, oh God, we're having a nightmare here with goalkeepers. Every week, defence looks an absolute joke. There's been times when the defence doesn't look great anyway. I just think he's at the age now. If he's happy to go, he's been a good servant. We've got a lot out of him, let's face it. Look at how the club's grown and how he's grown in the time that he's been there. My stance has kind of softened a little bit towards him leaving. Maybe I'm just trying not to be upset when he goes. I don't know. Maybe I'm preparing myself for that.
Maybe. Yeah, I think that's fine. Let's stick with United. This is quite a United heavy podcast. With pictures. Oh, there's no name for this either. Do you want to suggest?
Flex.
Flex. Okay, all right. Flex says, with pictures emerging Sunday on social media of Garnacho in a Rashford Villa shirt, does this indicate any involvement with Villa for either player, or is it just another way of Garnacho saying he's done at United? People say it's fine for players to wear other teams' shirts, but I'd be really annoyed if I saw Ollie Watkins on holiday in an Arsenal shirt, which, to be fair, is bang on. People would lose their minds if we saw Morgan Rogers in a Cole Palmer Chelsea shirt because they're mates, right? You go, yeah, but he plays for Villa and he's linked with Chelsea. Yeah. That's not odd.
Something happened similar to this not that long ago. Villa played
Diaby and Frimpong. That's the one I was thinking of.
Was it Frimpong wear a Villa shirt?
Frimpong wore Diaby's Villa shirt, yeah.
I wish we'd signed him. That'd have been great.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't always work like that.
Ultimately, that meant nothing, right? So
yeah.
I think this specific thing it's Rashford more so than Villa. It's Garnacho being a bit like, United, basically.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I'm going to stick two fingers up to you on social media because that's the thing now. I'm supporting one of my pals. He's probably going to leave United as well. This isn't Garnacho trying to say to Villa, come and get me. This isn't a disrespect thing from that side of things at all. No. I think it's completely irrelevant, to be perfectly honest, for Villa wanting to sign the player, him wanting to join us. I think it is a purely social media thing and Rashford's his mate. However, as the who was the commenter? Flex. As Flex said, if that was a Villa player, if that was Martinez wearing a non-Man United shirt, you'd be going, hang on a minute, it's a bit early for that. So I can definitely see both sides of it. Yeah. It doesn't mean that we're about to sign Garnacho, and I hope we don't.
I don't think there's any world in which we sign Garnacho this summer. Villa, maybe as a Champions League team, may be able to do that, but that's not the kind of signing that we're focusing on this summer. It's now going to be less proven players, let's say, players in the main. We're not going to go and drop 60, 70 million on Garnacho.
No.
It's not going to happen.
And neither should we.
No. Two, I think it's nothing to do with him signing for Villa. It's him having a mate who he will perceive hasn't been treated very well by the Manchester United manager.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, Garnacho will think, I've not been treated great by the Manchester United manager either, actually. He'll have his friend's shirt. Footballers will do things like that. Yeah. I guess he's got a Rashford Villa shirt. He'll be thinking, what can I do? It's really going to annoy Manchester United at this point because I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
I know what I'll do. I'll stick a Villa shirt on with Rashford on the back. Because he could have been like a front-on photo, couldn't have him just in a Villa shirt, and I don't think that probably does that makes impact in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's not. So it tells me it's more about Rashford than it is about Villa.
It might as well be an England Rashford shirt.
Yeah, basically. But he probably wouldn't wear an England shirt because he's Argentinian. So yeah,
that would annoy a whole different set of people.
Yeah, we're into different realms of annoyance, then, aren't we? And different connotations. But I think he's just been a belligerent young footballer, doing things to try and piss off Manchester United. He's going to go somewhere in the summer, probably Napoli, I would say, maybe back to Atleti because I think he started at Atleti. He was in the Atleti youth setup at one point before he went to Manchester United. I don't think Villa are signing Garnacho. I really, really don't. If Villa are going to sign anyone from Manchester United, it'll be the guy whose shirt he's got on.
Yeah, that's it for me, as far as I'm concerned. Two from Kamara, different from Jason, first of all, from Weymouth. Is Kamara better for us when Mings is playing rather than Torres? And Marcus in Sweden, very different. Would you take selling Kamara to Saudi for 30 million instead of Martinez for the same amount to Man United, given the risk that Kamara won't sign a new contract?
I think 30 would still be quite low.
Yeah, definitely. But I suppose from the kind of overall PSR thing, you keep Martinez and money changing hands is the same.
Yeah.
Sell Kamara to a league that we're not interested in.
Yeah, we're not going to play them. Yeah. Unless we're in the World Club Cup.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. What a turn up for the books that would be. Only Villa will know whether the risk of Kamara not signing a contract is greater than letting him go now. Do you let him run that out on a free and go somewhere else? Because that is a very common thing amongst footballers. It makes the individual footballers powerful again to leave on a free transfer and have a massive bonuses and wages and whatnot. It doesn't concern the clubs at all. I've done my time. Off I go to Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or whoever. That's great for Kamara or whoever leaving on a free. He left on a free to come to us for a start. You know, he's got previous. I wouldn't want to cash in on Kamara yet. But again, your Villa's position gets weaker the longer time goes on as well. If you were going to, it'd have to be for more than 30 million. And that's not what this question is asking us, but that wouldn't represent good value, I don't think.
I've said this again on my own show, so apologies for anyone that watches both shows.
Sorry, no one watches yours.
I'm going to be repeating myself. Well, I think the numbers tell a very different story about that, Dan Rolinson. I would like not to go into that now, though. I would say, from Kamara's perspective, if you're a sensible footballer and you've got sensible people around you, you see out a year.
Yeah.
In a year's time, you then know whether Villa are back in the Champions League and you're a Champions League footballer again. You're going to be available for less money than you're going to be available now, which means you might get more interest from other teams that wouldn't pay the money that Villa would want now, because Villa are going to be able to ask for more now than they will be able to in 12 months' time. You've used the Bosman market pretty well yourself previously in signing for Villa. You've left Marseille on a free and gone to Villa on a free. That's worked well for you. I'd ride out another year If I was Kamara, try and win something at Villa, you could perhaps win the Europa League, win a trophy, get Villa back in the Champions League, and then Villa are where you kind of need them and want them to be, and you've got the added option of some proper elite teams are probably going to be in for you. Then you've got just an array of great options at that point if you're Boubacar Kamara. So I think doing anything now would be a bit naive from Kamara, and I would apply the same to Villa unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah,
I let him do another year.
Completely
I think he's not going to sign that contract. Cue him signing it tomorrow. But, I don't think he's going to sign that contract because it's been on offer for a while now. There's parallels between him and Douglas Luiz, in fact.
Yeah, and Villa will be fully aware of the situation and will be planning for his exit in that case. Just quickly from Jason's question, is he better, Kamara, in the team when Mings is playing rather than Torres? Is that a thing?
I'm not sure what the correlation would be there. Because Kamara plays right central midfield anyway.
Well, I was going to say maybe Kamara has to do less defending in a team where Mings plays, but does that make him play better if he's doing less defending? Like, that's what he's good at.
Mings would play in a game more likely that we're planning on sitting in a little bit, I would say. I'm thinking back to Bournemouth away where we were quite contained at times. Kamara actually did get forward in that game and nearly scored, didn't he? He doesn't score many, but he did become a bit more. He obviously scored at the end of the season as well, didn't he?
Got a little burp there.
Yeah, I've got hiccups. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to provide an answer of any substance for that other than speculation that I'm not sure would be correct.
That's fine. All right. There's a Martinez one I missed, which I'll come back to in a sec. Just a quick one from Adam. If you were recruited by Villa to be on their staff list, what role would you love to take up? You can be anything from assistant manager to chef at the training ground. You just can't be a player or the manager. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. The obvious answer is some kind of media-related job, right? I think that's very boring. So scrap that. Is there anything interestingly different that you'd want to do? You might not necessarily be good at it, but just to give it a go.
What might be Hercules?
Decent. We spoke about this on the last episode. Where is Hercules?
I didn't know he'd gone, to be honest, which doesn't say very much.
Yeah, he's gone.
Having a rebrand. Probably something's happened to the costume would be my guess. And Villa haven't been bothered to fix it. that would be my immediate guess.
Maybe you can be the Hercules costume repairer instead.
More worryingly, what happened to Chip? Do you remember Chip?
I do, yeah. We spoke about this on the last episode. I think Chip's had a rebrand as well. Maybe he's grown up.
Chip, yeah,
maybe he'll come back as Hercules, like Simba in The Lion King.
Oh, I like that.
He'll be fully grown when he comes back.
And then there'll be a prequel.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes, decent. I mean, you won't remember this, but there was a period in the early 2000s where Villa tried something new and it didn't work. So this was when they bought Chip and Bella in. I think it must have been like 2000 or 2001. I think pretty sure John Gregory was still manager. So that was going on. And they started to do like little acts at half time.
Right, okay.
And so they had another mascot, a fourth mascot. He wasn't really a mascot, but he was called Brucey Bluenose. And I can't, for the life of me, remember what he was. And he used to come out and he used to be, unless I've dreamt this. Please, someone can remind me of this. Brucey Bluenose used to come out as well.
Surely not.
They used to have like a fight on a pitch and they'd like catch him in a net or something.
So he'd come out as like an antagonist, obviously related to Birmingham.
If anyone's got programs from that era, there was stuff in the programs about them every week as well.
Okay, I mean, we've got a load of programs at the office, which I'm not there now.
I think 2000, 2001.
Okay. Well, last week we spoke about the disappearance of Hercules and where he's gone. This week we've got the potential re-emergence of Brucey Bluenose, which only maybe you remember and no one else
Rob
does.
Bishop is the man that he will know the answer to that. He'll remember that because he used to do the program, so I might text him
somewhere. Yeah.
I might text him see if he remembers it.
Okay, we'll come back next week for more mascot chat. This is kind of a rolling theme on the channel now.
It's very important. But I'd like to be. What would you do? I'd like to be Hercules because you've got it. There's that famous picture of it. I've got a picture on my phone of Ian Taylor scoring in front of the whole end, and Hercules is next to him and involved in the celebration. So I feel like that would be my chance to celebrate a goal with it. I'll probably get the sack afterwards.
Yeah.
If someone scored, if you're nearby, if you're on the scene and someone goes to celebrate towards the corner flag, that's like the only time I'm ever going to get to celebrate a Villa goal with the players.
Yeah, fair.
Probably.
Yeah, that's decent actually.
That would be my reasoning. I never got to be a normal mascot either as a kid. My dad proper stitched me up. I've
never been a mascot either. Too expensive these days.
You have to pay. There was a time, right, and I've gone off on a massive tangent here. I went to something called Villa Soccer School every summer holiday. They still do them actually, but they're not called Villa Soccer School anymore. And there's penalty shootout every year. But everyone that went, you had a penalty shootout, and the winner got to be a mascot.
Nice.
So I was like, right, I'm training in penalties.
That's your in, yeah.
I had a mate who was really good at football, so we used to practice penalties and stuff. I got pretty good at pens. I'm not great at football, but I got good at penalties. I won the penalty shootout. And I'm like, right, this is it. I'm going to be Mascot. They come out, the Villa calculator.
Oh, no.
They changed the prize.
Oh.
That year, the year I won Villa Soccer Score penalty shootout, I got a Villa calculator instead of being a Mascot. If anyone can, like,
horrific.
It's just my chance to not be involved in the match down the pitch. It's something that I'd like to do that. That's what I'd like. What would you do?
That's a nice answer. I've gone completely the other way and try something more technical. I think I'd be terrible at it. I'd like to try and paint. I'd like to try and paint the lines on the pitch.
Oh, I've got an awful job. You pick anything at Villa. What terrible thing to pick.
Well, I don't want to be a coach or anything.
Might as well have been like, I want to change the Bovril barrel. What a boring thing to pick.
No, but like the groundsman side of it, making the pitch really nice and painting the lines really neat. Like,
that wasn't what you said. You didn't say I'd want to be a groundsman. You said I want to paint the lines.
It's the whole package, isn't it? Like, I think I'd be terrible at it and I'd probably be all out of whack, but I'd give it a good go. Anything coaching or tactical, like analysis, like all that. Not really that interested in that side.
I'd like to do a bit of analysis work. I'd like to be in Emery's analysis team. Again, I'm not sure.
Offer stuff, just to be involved.
Or maybe be Austin McPhee's number 2. I wouldn't mind doing that.
A number 2?
Sitting in his hut with him, coming up with new set pieces. Otherwise, I had a few things in my mind that I think could work. I don't want to give them away. I've got a few things that have never been tried in football that I think would work from corners and freaking. I know Austin McPhee does watch my podcast sometimes, so maybe I should be mentioning it in the wrong podcast. But I've got a few ideas.
Okay.
That I think would work.
Things that have never happened in football before. There's probably a reason.
There's one that's never happened.
Okay.
But mainly, I'd like to be Hercules.
Okay, fine. No name. Do you want to suggest one?
Brucey Blue Nose.
Brucey Blue Nose. We found him. He's got in touch. He says, we're a week from the end of June and all is silent at Villa Park. Can we officially start panicking? Am I the only one thinking that a points deduction is looking more likely than not? You won't see Villa get a points deduction. I can
they're too clever.
Guarantee that.
Just people behind the scenes are too savvy to let that happen. They ran it pretty close to the line last year, didn't they?
Yeah, and that was a much more pressing situation. That really was down to the wire of
there's a bigger gap to fill.
40, 50 million, whatever it was. We have to do it by the end of today. It really is going down to the wire. Otherwise, it would have been, I think John always says, a double figures points deduction is what was potentially on the card if they didn't sell Douglas Luiz last summer. You won't see that happen this year. There's absolutely no way, and I'd love to clip this up and look like an idiot. Actually, I wouldn't love to, because Villa will get a points deduction. But there's absolutely no way Villa go into next season with a points deduction of any kind because of breaking financial rules.
No. I might be naive here. The SCR rules, that's not the end of June, is it?
No. I don't know what the deadline is for that. It's just kind of like...
Start of the campaign, I think.
I would have thought when you register your squad, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, this is who
squad
we're going
cost
with.
rules. It has to be.
This is what that squad costs.
Yeah.
Are we in line or not? So I think you've got more manoeuvrability with that. PSR is obviously, it's the financial year. That ends on June 30th. If Villa need to make up 10 million, they will make up 10 million somehow. You will see business happen to make that done. Yeah, nothing else to say apart from you won't see Villa with a points deduction.
No, I agree.
Final question. It's Martinez related, but kind of around the houses. Again, no name. One more to end.
Matthew Gent.
Old
Villa youth goalkeeper.
Do you think any sale of Martinez could hinder our ability to attract signings? Coutinho was used to help Gerrard attract the likes of Kamara and Dean. I do feel that our one truly world-class player could be used in a similar way. I'm not one for wanting Garnacho myself, but wouldn't Martinez be the type of player that may influence the decision of a player like Garnacho? Firstly, I'm not sure.
That impact.
Yeah.
The attraction of Villa is the manager.
Yeah, I think if this was, I don't know, like even probably not someone like Rodgers because he's not as established yet. But if Rodgers had been at Villa doing what he's been doing for 3 or 4 years, you might hear somebody sign for Villa and say something along the lines of, I can't wait to play in front of Rodgers because he's so good. I know I'll score goals with him behind me, something like that. I don't think you ever get a sign for a club and say, I really wanted to play with the goalkeeper.
No.
Maybe a defender might. It's great having that security behind me, but even then, it's not something that attracts high-level players. They want to play with a certain position, I don't think.
No, Liverpool. If they were signing a centre-back tomorrow, I'm presuming that centre-back would reference playing with Van Dijk and learning off Van Dijk.
Yeah.
If Villa would sign a young goalkeeper,
yeah,
they would reference Emi Martinez. But I think as a package now, Villa X Unai Emery.
Yeah, I wanted to play for Emery, is what you're here.
And they would say, look at what he's done with such and such. Look at what he's done with Rodgers. Look at what he's done with Tillemans. Look at what he's done with all these players. Ollie Watkins. Look at what he's done to them. Emery's the attraction to Villa, I would say. Villa's an attraction in itself now because we're operating at a really high level, but a lot of me still thinks we're only operating at that level because of Unai Emery.
I agree. Yeah.
So Emery is the selling point of Villa. I think that's just the way it is. I don't envisage anyone when they've signed for Villa. No disrespect to Emi Martinez at all. I love him, but I don't envisage over the last couple of years anyone has signed for Villa because Emi Martinez is there. It's because of the manager.
I actually think, and this isn't really what the question was asking, I don't think we've really, as a club, made the most of having Martinez as like an asset to sell around either. And that's not necessarily around players, more so like the marketing side of it.
Even the 23 thing, EM23, world's number one, like they must have been able to do something with that. We haven't made the most of that as a club, I would say.
No.
I'd agree with that.
So I don't think having it be like, oh, we've got a World Cup winner, come and play with him. Like, I don't think
he walked on the ground. He walked in with his World Cup medal, didn't he? The first game back and stuff. So we did do stuff, but we probably haven't. Maybe we've tried, and there's things that me and you have missed, like certain t-shirts in the club shop and stuff like that. But stuff like that's never great. No. Anyway, no, we probably haven't done enough, even in terms of. I think when he signed the contract and went to the club shop, that was a good, and people could buy the shirts and get him to sign. I think that was a good thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, we probably haven't made the most of it.
Dan, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
It's great to hear from old goalkeepers like Andre Moreira and Matthew Gent as well.
Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you in a few days. Bye.